Hey, what's good? Welcome to AngularAir. I'm your host, Justin Schwarzenberger. We are doing a late midnight show, well, at least where I'm at, but we're live on location at AngularConnect this year. So we've got Bonnie Brennan out there. Bonnie, what's going on?
Good morning. Well, it's morning here. It's midnight there. And we love you for staying up so late so that you can host us. So we're doing a special breakfast thing, and I have just grabbed some really fun people and dragged them in here so that they could tell you guys about AngularAir or about AngularConnect. So
I'm glad you're the one that did that and not me. I've been like panicked every time we talk about AngularConnect. I'm going, oh my gosh, I hope I don't open the show and go, welcome to AngularConnect, because they're so close. But all right, we'll just no big deal.
I'm here for you, Justin. Okay, so so some of these people you guys might already know, but we'll introduce everybody. So you want to start with Olivier?
Yeah, hello. I'm Olivier Combe. I'm working for the core team as a contractor. That's me.
I love Olivier because he doesn't say much, but what he does say is usually really good. So you gotta listen.
Okay, so I'm Mateus Carniato. Everybody call me Max. It's easier. It's my first conference. I work at Reactor. It's a big data company for telecom. And I have some in this first conference, so I'm here to talk a little bit about.
So Matt came up to me yesterday morning and was like, Bonnie, I love AngularAir. And I was like, I love you. So now we're good friends. So this is his debut because we're going to start seeing Matt more. He's going to start doing more meetups, and maybe next year he'll be so this year he's an attend. And actually that happened. There was Bo was one of the speakers here. Last year was an attendee, and this year she's a speaker, which I think is super cool and inspirational. It's really good. So we're looking at you, Matt. You got to submit some talks next year.
No pressure.
Yeah, right. No pressure, but
I better see that in the CFP. So hi, I'm Joe. I've worked for White October events, and we run AngularConnect. So that's why I'm here.
White October events is amazing because there's like all these people running around behind the scenes, and they blend in. They seem almost invisible, and they're so wonderful. So we Samantha and I were here last year, and that's the first time we'd ever been to London, and we were like, we love these people so much. They were so great. So Joe is usually behind the scenes, like running everything and making sure that everybody stays where they're supposed to stay. And then so then I just like twisted your arm and then you come on camera.
Yeah, not scary at all.
So Joe, I have a question.
Okay.
You are White October events, right?
Yes.
So why is the event in November?
I know, it's so confusing. Because I do run lots of events. We can't put them all in October. We did
Why is it called White October?
Because the lovely Dave Fletcher, who'll probably be watching this, who
Hi Dave.
Hi Dave. He started a software agency called White October about 15 years ago, and he was about 21 and he thought it sounded cool. He won't let us make up a better story than that. So and about 5 years ago, we spun out an events company.
Well, now everybody knows White October events, so you're stuck with it.
Yeah, we're stuck with it.
Keep the name, Dave.
Cool. We're keeping the name.
Yeah, I like it. James.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm James. I work for a company called RDT. We do insurance software, but we're starting to move into Angular for front-end work for a new product or a rewrite of a product. And I've been fortunate enough to move on to one of those teams. I'm a bit of a newbie here, unlike the rest of you, so I've got about 6 to 8 months of Angular. I've been catching up on podcast after podcast after podcast on when I go out running, so I can go out for 3-hour runs, and so I can fit in 3 podcasts in that time. So when I was surreptitiously looking at labels yesterday, and when I saw Bonnie's, I raced over to her and introduced myself, and it went on from there.
And now we're friends. Basically, if you see me at a conference and you come up to me and say, hey, I know you from YouTube, I'll be like, hey, and then, then we're friends. And you never, but once I know your name, you're kind of screwed because I'll pull you into all kinds of things and then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad you're here, and I really think you're awesome. And so,
it's great.
And you too.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe I'm sitting here.
And so you have a lot of programming experience.
I have, yeah.
You're coming from C#?
C#. I've got probably 30 years of C#, C++, those sorts of languages. So it feels a very natural fit to move over to Angular. It feels just, it's not too difficult to move over.
Was it a personal choice or?
Well, I've always been interested in front-end work anyway, but more from an ASP.NET web form sort of arena and an MVC arena. But I just always wanted to move over onto spas, and this seemed like a fantastic opportunity to do so.
We came at the right time.
But I'm loving it, absolutely loving it.
I was trying to teach. Go ahead.
How's that transition with TypeScript and the C#? Pretty smooth, huh?
Yeah, because I was trying to
to.
teach JavaScript to like C# developers, .NET developers back in AngularJS, and they did not go well. Like they were like hostile, right? But then TypeScript is like so much more.
It feels completely natural.
Yeah.
And with all the IntelliSense built into VS Code, it's fantastic. I suppose moving over to VS Code from Visual Studio was a bit of a change. We don't have a build and run button in VS Code, but yet. But again, loving it.
Well, I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you.
Uri?
Hey, I'm Uri. I wear a dinosaur head currently. So that's the theme of the conference. And I also teach people how to dance salsa. So if you want salsa lessons, just come to me. And I think I know you from YouTube, right?
You definitely know me from YouTube.
Hey, Uri, do you have a Salsa VR app yet, or what?
That's a great idea. Let's work on one and be millionaires. We can do it.
Can we just skip to the be millionaires part?
So, and Ariella, so we were talking about you a couple weeks ago because you were on about a month ago and you had just proposed. And so it was like, kind of like, because I mean, Alyssa and I are romantics at heart. So we were like, he was showing us like, no, it was the article. We read the article and it was like the story of how he proposed, which was very nerdy and so cute. And we were just overjoyed. So then I've been calling her his fiance. Come to find out, she's already his wife. Like, so that's what I said this morning. Once he decides to marry somebody, man, he doesn't waste any time at all. Just get her done.
I just commit.
So can you tell us something about Uri that we don't know? And we promise not to tell, and shh, don't tell anybody, it's a secret, but just between us.
He never sleeps.
That explains why you get so much. Actually, I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter tweeting your articles. Like in the last, every time I go to Twitter, somebody's tweeting something that you wrote. And
That's
so,
because I decided to go on a challenge and post something new every day. So I made a lot of content so people will have what to tweet about.
that's awesome.
Also, he has 100 Twitter accounts and he retweets.
So that's
That was for doing that.
I love you guys. That's great. That's so great. Okay, so Punahele.
Yes, I'm Kapunahele Wong, but my Twitter handle is just Kapunahele because I'm sort of the only one that is online. So, yeah, so you can find me with just Kapunahele. And I live in Richmond, Virginia, and I help out on the Angular docs.
So I'm really, really bad with names, and I meet so many people, and I'm like such an extrovert at conferences. Then, you know, a year later, people will come up to me, Bonnie, and I'm like, hey! So I'm bad about that, right? And also, because Punahele has a very challenging name, because it's a long name, so there's multiple syllables, right, for me to remember. But I was talking with, what was it, InfoConf I was talking to you? So I had a chance to talk to her one-on-one, and she's such a wonderful, lovely person that I just really loved her so much that I remembered her name a year later. So that's like, for me, that's huge.
Thank you.
And I think you're wonderful.
Did she ever speak to you in Hawaiian, native Hawaiian? Yesterday she did to me.
Let me hear it.
Well, I was going to ask him something, and I started to say please in Hawaiian, which is ke olu olu, which is be pleasant. Ke olu olu. Yeah.
That's so great.
Wow.
I didn't even know there was a Hawaiian native language.
Yep.
But it sounds very pretty when you say it.
It's got a different cadence to it, that's for sure.
Yes, I like it. It's kind of musical.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, all the intonation is different in English.
I like it. Okay, so let's talk about AngularConnect. What do you think? Let's start with you, Olivier. We're just going around.
Okay. Well, as always, I talked about and did an amazing job. one thing changed this year. They changed the layout of the main track
Yeah.
so that people can go on both sides and it feels less crowded.
Is it?
But apparently there are more people,
It's bigger and better.
so it's nice.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, the talks are amazing.
What's your favorite so far?
AI in JS.
Yeah, that was
The same stuff.
I said
Yeah.
it was amazing.
I loved it because he got up on stage and he was like, my wife is pregnant and she's about to have a baby like any minute now. So if this phone rings, I'm out of here. And it was just super funny.
We literally didn't know if he was going to get on stage. It was right down to the wire as to whether he was going to come on stage or not. It was tense.
Well, I'm glad he made it.
I know, it was a great talk. It was amazing.
Yeah. So Matt, tell us.
Yeah, actually, for me, it's my first conference. It's I'm originally from Brazil, so it's super hard to go to international conference. It's super expensive, super far. So, but I got this wonderful opportunity thanks to I'm working in Belgium right now, and I have some notes because that's a get start guide for your first time in a conference. So I just going to speak them. So first thing, find Bonnie. Because if you find Bonnie, you instantly boost your conference experience to the roof. Right? I was a lonely wolf yesterday, and I found Bonnie, and suddenly I'm taking pictures with Igor Minar before the keynote, and sneaking out in the conference room before everybody.
We're sneaking. I'm like, we're not supposed to be in here.
And now I'm here. So it's, for me, I've been working with Angular for 8 years since Angular started, and I always was alone in this. I love it. I see YouTubes and stuff, but now I kind of find my tribe. So I really want to give back to the community now. So it was a wonderful experience. Bonnie pumped me a lot. Tracks are great, but networking is priceless. So I had the chance to talk with the guys from Ionic, show some of my work, and they love it. It's pretty cool. I would advise to talk with the sponsors. They have really nice things to show, and the swags are pretty cool. So I got all of them. And try to be part of something bigger. So that's the takeout for me in this conference. I found my tribe. Now I want to give back to the communities. It's good to be part of something bigger. So.
Wow, that's like a wrap. You just drop it right there. That just nailed it all, right? It's great to hear you say that stuff because, you know, every time we have a conference episode, we talk about them. We always kind of say that same thing that you just reiterated as a person who's been there and attending. And that's like, these talks are great and stuff, but the networking is priceless. So it's really cool to hear from new attendees.
I think so many software developers are introverts. And really, because I know that because the first, 5 or 10 years, well, I've probably only been doing development for 10 years, but the first few years specifically that I learned some PHP, I learned some Ruby on Rails, and I got into Angular, but I was like completely self-taught in a bubble. And so everything that I knew was from articles back in trying to learn English, like just all we had was the docs, which were written by really smart people who've been working. It was like really, it was hard, right? And so I was kind of figuring everything out as I went along, but I was doing it all alone. And then the first time I went to a conference, and then I started networking with all these people, and then it's like my knowledge was like multiplied because even if I don't know something, I know who to ask and I can reach out to them. But it's really hard because when you don't, like when you're just a regular old developer, like these people are super intimidating. Like they're up on stage and it's like they're smarter than like they're just doing all this amazing stuff. But what people don't realize, what I didn't realize back then was they know all this amazing stuff because they have notes in their slides and they've like practiced it and they've got everything working behind stage. And sometimes the speakers are like fishing up their live demos or, and they're just as nervous as everybody else. Well, yeah. Actually, it was funny because when I went to the first talk that I did on stage, because I had the meetup, so I did meetup talks, but meetup talks have a small crowd. And then I was like on stage at Angular Mix, I was doing a GraphQL, which GraphQL is like kind of new, right? A lot of people don't know. And there was some functionality that I really wanted to show, which was like the coolest part of my demo. and it wasn't working, and I couldn't get it working, and I was like freaking out, and I was so nervous. And my first talk, like on stage at a conference, and so I was freaking out anyway. But then my code didn't work, and it's like, this is the coolest thing. So Justin actually, the night before my talk, he stayed up late with me and fixed it because he's my hero. And then I went on stage and looked super cool, but I'm like, the only reason all this code works is because Justin saved my butt last night. And guy was like one line that just wasn't working, and it was amazing. But yeah,
you definitely over-exaggerate it. It was all you.
But for me, I was like freaking out, and you were like the voice of reason, being, you're gonna be fine. And I was like, okay, Justin says I'm gonna be fine. but the point being, like, to go back to what Matt said, was if you are a developer, if you're a regular normal developer, and you're not participating in the community because you just don't feel like an expert, that's not, because that's how you become an expert, is when you have this network of people. Like, you have to get out there and start, participating in the community, because everyone, there's always a beginner, right? Like, James has been programming for a long time, but just recently started getting into Angular. So there's always people that are starting, and then you always have something to offer, and you learn better by. So yeah, so the point is, you should be participating in the community even if you're not an expert.
Actually, this is a really interesting point. I think there is a good takeaway for speakers. We should try to be a little bit more genuine. Like, it's okay if something doesn't work on stage, because that's how things go in real life. We shouldn't pretend that everything is perfect. I think it was in Igor's keynote here in AngularConnect 2 years ago, when he tried to show some demo in the keynote, and that didn't work. And it actually made me feel good, because if stuff doesn't work for Igor, it's okay that it doesn't work for me, right?
It's funny you should say that, because my husband was with me at NG Atlanta last year, and you were on stage, and he was watching all the talks, but you're the one that he commented on, because you were doing like a Bluetooth mind control thing. It was kind of emerging technology, and it really wasn't working. I mean, it did work eventually, but it took you a couple of tries to get it right. And it's like, when you're on stage and everybody's looking at you and it's not working, it's very stressful. And he was really impressed with, like, you just, like, you were super cool, and your composure was, and maybe you were nervous on the inside, but on the outside, you looked like cool as a cucumber, and he was really impressed with you. Yeah, cool as a cucumber. So yeah, so I have all the, like, apparently there's like a lot of slang that I use that I don't even know that I use, and so everybody gets a kick out of it. So I was saying, like, a cat. Nervous, because right before we go on stage, right, they're nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. But when you say that to someone who's not from Texas, so then they make me say it again, like, nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. But it's more fun when you say it fast, like, because that's the thing. Yeah. So yeah, nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. And you got to slow it down. I'm like, what did she say? Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, you were cool as a cucumber.
Thank you. Thank you.
And yeah, I told Dominic Elm when he was in Houston, I told him he was a hoot. And he was like, so then he told me, he actually Googled it to see what that meant, and he couldn't, and he was like, what is that good? I was like, yeah, it means you're a fun person. But he was like, because owls hoot. It was funny. It was funny. Yeah, I love Dominic. Okay, so James.
I would probably agree with exactly what Matt said. I mean, I'm here by myself, not with a team of people, and what I've found is that you can literally turn to the person next to you and start talking to them about Angular and about the conference, and everyone is so willing to discuss and friendly and warm, and I mean, that's really come across in this conference, including the speakers as well, because like last night at the end of the day, you could walk around and all the speakers were there, just milling around, chatting to everyone. I mean, that is incredible. I'm not sure that's ever happened at any of the other conferences I've been to. So I thought that was fantastic. And the final point, from someone who's quite new to it, the levels of the talks, it is a great variety of simple and complex. I'd say the deep dives are fantastic, maybe a little too much in places. It just works. It's great.
I love that they live stream everything. The first time I went to an Angular conference, I didn't know that. And so I was like super nerd in the front row, scribbling notes as fast as I possibly could. And I was like trying to just remember everything because I didn't realize It was all going to be on YouTube. So then the second time I went to a conference, I was much more relaxed. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back and watch that talk. So then all I had to write down was like which talks I wanted to go back and revisit.
Yeah, I have to agree with James. I'm a huge fan of Warbell and John Papa.
Yes.
They are my idols, like since the Angular style guides. And yesterday I just saw Warbell walking around and came to say hi, and he was super receptive. Hey, let's take a selfie. And so for me, it was something, I'm actually talking with this guy. So it's really amazing. You really think that everybody's going to be super and actually they're super receptive.
I love Word. The first couple of times that I saw Wordbell, I thought he was kind of odd because he's like, you cannot miss Wordbell. You go to a technical conference and everybody is wearing blue jeans and t-shirts, and Wordbell is like this crazy, wild, like shiny suit, or like he's always wearing something wild and crazy, very stylish. And I was like, what on earth is that guy? Like, he must be lost. He must be in the wrong place or something. And so it was like a couple of years before I ever approached him and talked to him. And when I did, I found out he's fascinating. And if you see this word, don't let that go to your head because, yeah. But he's really, we just won't tell him, right? He's really interesting.
Here's a fun Wardbell fact. He's been dressing up like that for years. I used to do .NET stuff, Microsoft stuff before Angular, and I go to all the Microsoft conferences, and he would be at the Microsoft conferences wearing the same type of outfits. But at those conferences, nobody talked to anybody, so it was like he's just walking down the aisle, and everybody else is doing their thing, and it was just really odd. But like, everything fits in perfect.
My first reaction was, "Who is this guy with this clothes?"
Me too.
Yeah.
Like,
This
what
guy's
is he
wearing
doing
fur.
here? Yes.
Actually, shiny clothes. And then I look, oh my god, it's Wordbell.
Yeah. But if you see this crazy dress guy at a conference, go and talk to him because he really is such an interesting person. He's such a warm and kind person, and he's wicked smart. And also, like, once you get used to the fact that he doesn't look like everybody else, his style is actually really amazing. Because now I look forward to see like what is Word going to be wearing, you know? So it's a thing.
I think it's actually a good point to speak a little about diversity because I started noticing more and more people wearing not the t-shirt and jeans stuff in conferences. Like months ago, it was a conference in Israel, and there was some girl there with a really pretty dress and colored hair, and it makes the conference much more vibrant.
Was it Aishable?
No, it wasn't. Where is she?
I don't know. Was she supposed to be here? I haven't seen her. But she always dresses really nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more fun when you have people dressed not like the casual jeans and t-shirt, and people like Wordbell make it possible for others to do it. Like, they make it more of a normal thing to do in conferences. So I think it's awesome.
Next year.
Yeah, NG Atlanta was like, there were a lot of, because Zach tried really hard to get a lot of diversity and a lot of women, and was really inclusive from reaching out to the community and getting a lot of women. And there was some style. Like, I've never seen such fashion at a tech conference, but it was pretty cool. I liked it.
Yeah, that's another good point to point it out. It's like how in our field, like developers usually is a really masculine thing, and here I feel that everybody's welcome. It doesn't matter your gender, your age, or experience. So it's really a welcoming place. Everybody feels accepted. I think this is a really good thing nowadays. We need to embrace everybody. In our field, this is something really huge. So the
it's
organizations,
something we're really passionate about, and so it's really amazing to hear you talk about it because we work really hard to try and make that happen. So I have a quote that I picked up from Igor's talk yesterday, which was, in order to build good teams, we need to build a community that understands each other, and I just thought that was really lovely, and that's kind of what we're trying to do with AngularConnect. It's really cool.
It is. I think the whole the warmth of the Angular community, I think, really originated from the Angular team, because it's not a coincidence that, like, and I hear that so much from so many people, that the Angular community is so warm and nice, and you can just talk to everybody, and that was my first experience when I met Igor and Brad and the Angular team. I was flabbergasted that they were so nice.
You're a bit starstruck, and then you're like, everyone's so nice.
Yeah, you expect them to be kind of conceited and arrogant because they're basically famous at this point, and they, at least in our community, they're famous. And they're not. They're just so warm and humble, and it's really nice.
I love this conference. Like every single person I speak to, whether it's speaker, delegate, sponsor, everyone's amazing and so interesting and so lovely. It's just I'm on a complete high for like 3 or 4 days around this conference. It's just amazing.
See, we think that of you guys. Samantha and I came here last year and we were starstruck because we've never been to London, right? And we were like, ooh, London. We were like telling everybody we're going to London, right? And then you guys treat us like we're so important.
You are.
And we're like,
everyone's
that's so, yeah.
You're bland.
Exactly. You're upsetting.
I'm not used to, I think Angular, the only people that watch us is the nerds, right? Because and it's, so then when people come up to me, I get excited all over again. And I say nerd, to me, nerd is like a term of endearment. Yes. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah.
Actually, I think there is more to it because many of the people who attended Angular conferences in the past and have been part of the community have moved to different technologies like React and Vue and general.
And it spreads.
Yeah, I think it spreads out. I see other communities and they also have similar RT builds, similar openness. So I think it also spreads to other communities, which I think is amazing.
Yes,
it is. It is.
It's something really special.
I'm actually really, and I hate to put you guys on the spot because I know you're new to YouTube, but I'm really interested in your perspective as attendees. What do you think was your favorite talk so far? And, well, this is very early in the morning of the second day, so we still have a lot of talks ahead of us. So we want to know what you're excited about to see today, and then what you really liked yesterday.
Can I give two ones I like?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're using ngRx in our applications, and they're fairly small applications, so I was a bit hesitant about whether it was the right technology for those applications. So I went to the Michael Ryan's discussion about that, and it was fantastic. It was a really clear explanation of why you should be using it, and it really reinforced it for me.
So did you decide that you don't need it? Or
No, definitely it's the right thing. No, because of all the testability, separation, concerns, single responsibility, and all those things.
Yeah.
So that was a great one. And also, I think for me, I was talking to Matt about this, my frustration with Angular is the testing side of it. I find the tooling so far, the spec files, writing spec files, is pretty difficult compared to where I've come from in C#. And so it was Joe's talk on Cypress.io, which was, again, an eye-opener for me. I mean, this is probably all newbie stuff, and everyone using Cypress for years, but for me, that was fantastic. That looks like something we should be looking into.
I'm right there with you. So I've been hearing about Cypress, and I've been hearing really good things about Cypress from some really cool kids that would know, but I haven't had a chance to dive into it either, so I'm a newbie right along with you.
And what I'm looking forward to today is the dynamic reactive forms of GraphQL. Because we've tried to do stuff dynamic.
He likes GraphQL.
Well, I don't know much about it, but we tried to do stuff with dynamic data and producing forms, and it tends to end up being label value, and it never looks nice. So I'm really hoping this will give me some inspiration as to how we can maybe.
Yeah, and now that we're friends, I'll hook you up. I can help you. You know, I had an episode. The only time that I was in the hot seat so far on AngularAir was GraphQL a month ago. I was super nervous. You'd think I'm used to being a panelist and I'm used to being kind of silly and goofy, but then I was it was like pressure because now I'm the guest, and it was crazy. But it was about GraphQL, and it was kind of an intro to GraphQL, so you can look that up if you get a chance.
I would.
Yeah. Or you can always.
It all gets real when you have to start coding on the screen.
I know, I've been on AngularAir for a while, but then when I'm the guest and I was all flustered, it was oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not used to this. It was much more stressful than being just a panelist. Being a panelist, I'm just heckling people and being goofy, but being in the hot seat, it's hard. It's hard.
And she called me a cucumber.
That's okay. I called Dominic a hoot. So what about you, Matt? What do you think?
Yeah, actually, it's amazing, the talks. As I said, I did a lot of network. Bonnie heard me around, related to everybody.
Introduced him to James. And a whole bunch of other people?
I really identify myself with Chai because I'm kind of with my friends. I'm kind of a clown too, so I always doing jokes and making fun ways of teaching them stuff. So the Chai presentation for me was the best.
Yeah.
Because it always has this humor, but also has some knowledge that's interesting to get a grasp. And today I'm really excited about anything about Ivy. I've been playing with Ivy for a while. It seems to me like the whole grail Angular so far. So
you see why I love him so much?
I'll dive into it.
Oh, yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, once Ivy released, I will finally be able to get some sleep.
Right. Yeah, it was funny. So I met them in the morning, right, and then everybody's going into the big track one and sitting down, getting ready for the keynote. And I saw Matt, and I was like, Matt, you got to come and sit up the front, right? So I put him like right behind the speaker row, and then and I knew he was here by himself, and I remembered James. So then like 5 minutes to go before the keynote starts, and I'm like running around frantically looking for James so that I could pair him up with Matt. Because they're both, so I'm like, you guys can be buddies and you can sit together.
Shouting my name out to you.
Because I'm nearsighted,
I'm
right?
frantically running around trying to find you because you're about to get on stage.
So we're all running around and I'm going, James Dutton! And he's like new, right? And he's like really, this is what I'm like, be careful, because once I know your name, right, it's like, so, but we found him and then we put him next to Matt and now they're friends. And yeah, but you've been such a good sport about it.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I'm glad, because I don't want to make people uncomfortable, but you have to get out of your comfort zone and start. And like once you break the ice and start talking, then you realize how wonderful everybody is, and then it's easy after that. It's like just that first, like you get out of your comfort zone, and it's like you're nervous in the beginning, but then you find out, okay, these people are pretty cool, and then we just never get rid. That's what happened with me. Now they can't shut me up.
Yeah, and when you're
next.
And what?
1 year later, you're a speaker?
1 year later, you're a speaker.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. So you're going to submit a talk next year too?
I'm hoping everyone around the table is going to be submitting talks next year. I want to see this.
Yeah. Kapuna Helen, what's your favorite talk from yesterday?
I don't know. Well, Lori and I have been practicing our talk that we're going to give today.
Today.
Yeah, so my mind has been so wrapped up in that. Looking forward, and then my mind's going, oh yeah, don't forget this one thing and this other thing.
I was tickled when I saw you guys together, because I really like Uri and I really like you, but I didn't even know that you guys knew each other, and I was like, oh, that's going to be a cool talk. Like, it's just fun.
No
it's like
pressure.
guaranteed to be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
Because it's,
one of the best talk today.
it's hard, because when you're on this, like basically anytime, I think probably for all of us, I don't know if it's universal, but for me, if I'm going to be on stage, like I'm going to be nervous. I can't, like we're all nervous. You don't know we're nervous, but we're nervous. And then after your talk is over, it's like, okay, now I can relax and enjoy the conference. But it's hard when you're going on the second day, because you don't get to enjoy it. Well, you still enjoy the conference, but you don't really get to relax. And
It's hard to hear all the words.
yeah.
There are words, but they don't stick.
Yeah. I think you guys are going to be awesome.
Thank you.
Programming is such a challenge. It's so hard. I always feel really bad picking people on the second day, but we've got to fill 2 days.
Yeah, well, you have to. You have
It's
to.
really hard, but yeah, it must be super difficult.
Well, next year you're going to
You wanna
make
be
it
on day
3
one.
days, right?
Oh yeah, at least.
At least 3, a week.
A week. A week festival.
There could easily be 3 days of content, I think.
I mean, we get so many submissions to the CFP. It's like 300 or 400. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. So.
Plus, there were so last night, and you guys, it was so fun because there were so many like activities at after hours, mingling, and there was a.
The learning talks were amazing. You should check those out on YouTube. They're going to be released, but they were so good.
They were. There was Alan, and then who was the one before that read a poem? Do you remember?
Joe.
Read a poem.
Yeah, they were amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely check that out. I did tweet that. I tweeted out that one because it was really, really great. So
Because it was like a poem about being a developer.
and about being a speaker and all the things that happen, and it's so funny but so true.
And but it was really good, and but it's so unexpected, like poetry. Like that just came out of left field, but it was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they are JD Pierce on Twitter, so check them out.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. I'm bad with names, so I'm good that you know
Yeah,
that.
it was really good. So
Yeah. So, what about you?
What about me?
Are you looking forward to anything specific today?
I'm looking for the talk.
Yeah. What time is your talk?
11:55, right before lunch. So everybody is going to be finished already. We want to get some lunch.
Hey, don't complain. My talk is the last one of the day.
Oh, sorry.
But that's like, that means you're the anchor. That's important.
Yeah, it means that if people don't care, they just leave.
No, it's like when you play tug of war and you're playing against, like, you want to put like your best player at the end of the rope as like the anchor, so even if you're like if they're starting to pull you across, you got that like solid player at the end, like
I think
holding
that's
them.
fun.
Yo, Bonnie, when was the last time you played tug of war?
Is
Is that something you still play or what?
Hey, I'm like the queen of bad analogies.
You're headlining like a rock star.
Like a rock star.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. So how are we doing? So we have some time left. Why don't you tell us? Tell us like some secret. Okay, so we won't tell anybody, I swear. And you know, Pete's not watching this anyway.
No.
So can you tell us like, can you like dish it, or can you tell us like stuff about them that we don't know?
I mean, I can't dish them.
They're so lovely.
They are so lovely. They're amazing to work with. So we work really closely with Ed, Pete, and Josh, and they run Angular London, and they're amazing. They help us with all the programming and all the content, and they help us kind of get the feel of the conference as it is, and they kind of really drive that connect side of AngularConnect. It's amazing. So I can't dish this out on them.
I don't know if there is here one, and we're so
I
slow.
know, this is it. I was racking with brain thinking there's nothing I can say.
Let's just find something scandalous. We might have to make up something scandalous.
I can't do it to them.
I was talking to Josh, who's one of the organizers, and so I'm emceeing in one room, and he's emceeing in the other rooms, the two tracks, right? And I was telling him, because I'm a goofball, right? And so I was like, I think that I can like talk some smack and get my crowd to yell louder than your crowd.
Oh yeah.
Well, apparently here smack means like heroin or something. I was like, no. That's not what I was talking about, like talking trash, right? Like and he was looking at me going, what are you doing? It was crazy. But then once so I was like talking trash, like I'm gonna make my people yell louder than your people, and he was like, oh no, you're not. No.
Yeah.
So this is like a challenge accepted.
Okay, we're gonna try that today then.
We are.
Shout out this.
Yeah.
But without a smack.
No smack, guys. No smack.
Definitely no smack.
It's not that kind of thing.
That's not happening.
Reminds me of a story from the first AngularConnect. There was Sarah Robinson from the Google Cloud team. She was speaking, and at the beginning of the talk, she told us she had an app that translates between languages, and she told us not so funny story from that morning, where she had out breakfast and she saw the black pudding, and she thought, hey, pudding, it must be. She had it, and apparently she's also vegetarian.
Oh.
Oh
What's in the black pudding?
Blood, pig's blood.
Okay.
no. I'm glad you told me. I did not know that. Yeah.
The secrets of the UK.
Yeah. Oh, weird and wonderful ways. Sorry.
I love it.
No, Ed and Josh are amazing. They're big kids. I was trying to do the run through the practice for the host setup, and all they wanted to do was put the dinosaur outfits on and run around.
Oh, I love the
trying to like
dinosaur.
corral them onto stage to get them to practice.
And I
It
was
was so fun.
I want to take pictures. And then what was it? Josh was a T-Rex, and I did take pictures of him because Ed was a
T-Rex.
because he was every time he laughed because he had this big dinosaur head, and the dinosaur head was like bouncing at us. It was the funniest thing. But really the funniest thing, but it was kind of sad because so they had Ed, who I love, in the T-Rex.
Yeah.
And so he's got the little tiny T-Rex arms, but he was looking down at the teleprompter, and so he looks like kind of sad because he wasn't sad, but he was looking down at the teleprompter, so it looked, and he's got the little tiny arms, and it funniest.
He was really worried about holding the microphone.
I know. It was so great. I just love that they don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah,
that they can be super goofy. And
So
those costumes were great. They really were.
I've seen some other people wearing them around as well, which is fun.
Yeah. And I love them all, but I think I love the T-Rex.
T-Rex is the best.
Were there any big announcements?
I don't think we've had any big announcements yet.
Actually, Igor said that Ivy is sort of ready, like the code is already ready. They are now starting to test it internally within Google. So I think this is a big milestone, especially now that everybody expects Ivy to solve all of their problems, including the sleep problems.
And that's the biggest thing. Like I remember, because I usually sometimes will watch, because Justin's like, posting, and I'm sometimes over watching the chat on YouTube, and everybody wants to know, when is Ivy going to be out? When is Ivy going to be out? And
It's easy when it's ready.
Right?
It was funny because we had the office hours, the Q&A panel with the IB team.
Mhm.
So Igor, Alex, Jason, and myself. And before the question, Jason asked Alex, how long until they ask when IB comes out? And Alex said, I don't know, 30 seconds. And so Pete starts and say, okay, so does anybody ask any question? I need somebody.
When is it ready?
When IB is going to be ready.
It reminds me of that the gif of Stephen Colbert, and he's going, "Give it to me now!"
Take my money.
Yeah, it's great. And also, so if you're watching this episode and you're not a regular viewer of AngularAir, we had Uri on. What was it, Justin? Like a month ago, we had Uri on talking about.
Right. I could find the exact date if you want me to.
No, they can find it because you can go to AngularAir.com and then they can look for it. I know, because we're always asking Justin, like, what's this and what's this, and Justin will, like, you guys know there's a website and you can get it anytime, and we're like, yeah, but we don't want to look it up, Justin, because we're spoiled.
So I have a question to you. How many of you have ever had Nigerian food?
Oh yeah, you went to dinner with Sonny last night.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Wow, that was so spicy. And like I can still feel my mouth burning from yesterday. It was awesome. Like we had all sort of mashed beans with plantains and beef and goats and like crazy dishes. And Sunny was like playing the host, and he gave us all kind of Nigerian beers, and yeah, it felt like
he was our host. Last year, we stayed a couple days after the conference, and because we were so excited to be in London. And Sonny lives in London, and if you guys don't know, I mean, of course you know Sonny. Everybody knows Sonny, but he lives in London, and so he was like taking us around and telling us what we had to do, and we had to ride this and that, and it was great. He's a very good tour guide.
And we found out that his real name is actually Muhammad.
Really? Well, how did he get Sonny out of Muhammad?
So his full name is Muhammad Fani Yusuf, and Fani means second in Arabic, like the second Muhammad. But people can't Funny, so they started mispronouncing his name and calling him Sunny. So it's stick.
Yeah. Well, you gotta go with that. I like
Yeah,
it.
and it's really cool. Actually, his brother still lives in Nigeria, and he's only 15 years old, and he started producing a lot of video content. So Sunny is now trying to help him. He just fundraised for him for a new computer, and he's trying to help him to become a developer, and it's really amazing what he's doing. Yeah.
He's really great. I like Sonny a lot. He's very friendly. We should. Well, I'll talk to Justin about that and get him on. What's he doing? He's still on the Ionic team?
I think so.
Yeah.
You had a check in with him on Monday.
For Ionic?
Super popular. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
Oh, I'm looking for a new developer.
Really?
Yeah. Remote developer and one backend as well. Ruby development, I think.
That's cool. That's good.
remote.
Yeah.
So if you're a big fan of Ionic, and you should apply to Ionic.
And I think one advocate.
So they're hiring all kinds of, well, because they're kind of like going crazy with Ionic. A lot of people are using Ionic, so that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
You can join them.
It's great because with the first time, because sometimes it's like you feel like no matter what you learn, it's never enough because there's always one more thing to learn, and it's like I need this and I need to learn that, and so when I first started, the first time I ever used Ionic, I was like I don't feel like I really have to learn anything because it's just like writing Angular. It's so similar, and basically is so easy. And it was funny because when you were on the Ivy show, we were like, we want you to like teach us how to use Ivy. Like that's another thing that we have to learn, right? But it's not, because you don't learn how to use Ivy. Like you can learn like how it works under the hood and everything, but like you guys have been working so hard to make, so you just write the code the way you always have, and then Ivy just comes along and just does all this beautiful stuff under the hood, and like you don't have to do anything different. Is that right? Or is there any context? Is there any of the syntax that's changing for Ivy? You just write your code and it's just beautiful. That's why everybody wants it, because we don't even have to do anything, and you're just going to make it all work better.
Actually, the same thing happened in Angular 4, where they changed the compiler. Like when people upgraded from Angular 2 to Angular 4, they didn't have to do anything special, but just a new engine under the hood, and it worked.
And that's one of the reasons why it takes so long, and people like try to rush you, and you say you got to wait, because backward compatibility is totally worth waiting for. So that's why we just did just wait.
Yeah, and just a small disclaimer, you say you, but I don't work in Ivy. I just help people understand Ivy.
Well, but you work in Ivy.
Yeah, you deserve it.
So if it goes wrong, blame it on Olivier.
And it was funny at the Q&A, somebody asked about backward compatibility.
Yeah.
And Igor said, I think it was Igor, we are taking this so far that when we wrote some part of Ivy, we found out some bugs in the current renderer that no one ever talked about. But because we need to be backward compatible, we need to recreate the bugs. But it works exactly the same.
Sounds like how Internet Explorer evolved.
Yeah. But we're gonna fix that later. But first step is to be backward compatible.
I think this is super important. Like for me, like I work in a company that we have customers using our software, right? So upgrading Angular is something that developers want, but if you don't have this compatibility, it's always a hassle. You have to do a lot of testing to make sure that anything breaks. So this kind of hedge with compatibility is really important for us. So when I learned that Ivy is going to be kind of seamless, it was.
I love when there's like, it's not another thing that you have to learn. It's just a gift that the Angular team has given you, and you don't have to do anything but receive your gift. It's great.
Yeah, and it's the same. We don't realize it, but it's also the same with browsers. They would all the time faster, and DOM faster, and CSS faster, and they add new features. And sometimes you just take it like, okay, there is a browser, it works. We use it. But they work so hard to make the web backward compatible. So sites like spacejam.com from 1995 still work.
It's a great time to be a developer. So we're starting to run out of time. Did we miss anything? Does anybody have anything else that you want to add? Olivier? Matt? James?
Go watch our talks today. It's gonna be great.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming, and it's been amazing. And particularly all our hosts, we've got Bonnie, Carmen, Joe, Ian, Aaron Frost, Anna, Pete, and Josh, and they're all amazing. And you guys have been so brilliant on stage. So
it's an honor to be asked.
It's a load of work, and it's scary, and you're amazing.
Because I don't take myself too seriously, and I'm a big goofball, and I was shocked that they asked me, like, they want me to go up on stage with a mic, and I'm like, are you sure? Because I'll do it. Be careful what you wish for. But it's been super fun. Yeah. And I always feel like a kind of a dork because I'm up there with a mic, and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but But
It doesn't seem like that when you're on stage. You're a total natural. So.
yeah, I come off stage and she's like, "You did a great job," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, good. I like this. Yeah, it's fine."
Joe, do you already have dates for next year's Angular?
Yeah, we do. Can you give me a second while I can?
It's September. I think it's September 18th and 19th.
And there is a new venue.
There's a new venue. We're really excited about the new venue.
Where's the venue?
Yeah, we're going to be in the QET Centre, which is right in the middle of Westminster. So you can see Big Ben, you can see House of Parliament.
How about the small Ben?
Sorry?
The small
Ben?
Ben.
No, we don't like him. Yeah, it's going to be really cool. And so, yeah, it's a really great location. It's a little bit easier to get to than Excel.
In North London.
Yeah, it's great news. We're very excited.
And the weather is going to be more nice.
I reckon it's going to be lovely in September, not rainy.
It's London.
Drizzling.
It's never nice.
We're going to need a new theme. So, if anyone, we've had dinos this year, we have space last year, we've had 80s. So,
You know what would be a really fun theme that I think everybody could run with? Maybe cartoons.
Oh,
Maybe
nice.
because there's a lot of like, comics and,
yeah. If anyone's got any ideas they want for themes, then you can tweet us at AngularConnect, and that'd be really cool. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're running out of time. We are running out of time. So picks.
Oh no.
Justin, what about you? You have picks? And I have to say again how much I love you, Justin, because it's like almost 1 o'clock in the morning where you're at, and you're amazing.
I usually wake up at this time, start my day, get stuff done. So it's just no big, yeah, right. Yeah, I got to pick. I'm picking AngularConnect for next year because that sounds amazing. The location sounds amazing. Everything sounds amazing. Plus, I also just saw Bohemian Rhapsody today, so that was pretty cool. So I'll pick that as well as movie pick.
I think the music is going to suddenly become popular again. And it's funny because when you have like these songs that are classics, but then you see like these little teeny boppers running around like they think it's new and cool.
That's just like,
Oh yeah, so I came home and my daughter, she's 14. She's like, "What'd you see? Bohemian Rhapsody. Do you know that song?" And didn't expect her, and she starts singing a part of the song. I'm like, "Okay, you're right. That's the one."
Okay, so does anybody have picks?
I've got two.
Go ahead.
So I'm interested in DevOps. So this is again came from I think one of your podcasts was with Dan. If I get the surname right, Warling.
Yes.
Thank you. And I've never used Docker. We have Microsoft House SB Service Fabric, and his Docker video Pluralsight, although I'm imagining it's elsewhere on containerizing Angular applications with Docker was fabulous. And secondly, my fantastic team, John and Ben, so shout out, I'm afraid, recommended a book by Terry Hayes called I Am Pilgrim. That's a great book.
I Am Pilgrim?
I Am Pilgrim.
What is it about? Is it a technical book? Or is it...
No, not in the slightest.
What's it about?
It's a spy assassination type novel.
Oh, that sounds
So
cool.
a bit of a fun one and a serious one.
Those are really good picks. And Dan Moline, Docker, I mean, he's a really good teacher. He's an amazing teacher.
It was a great podcast as well when he came on.
Yeah, it was a really good show. Anybody else got picks?
Yeah, I have one that's not really new, but helped me a lot in my journey. It's Angular Firebase that's pivoting to Firesheet now. So it's an amazing job that Jeff is doing with a lot of cool videos teaching how to integrate multiple things. He started with Firebase, but now he's teaching everything. So it's really good content.
Who? Jeff? Who?
It's Jeff Delaney, I think.
Jeff Delaney?
Yeah. So
I have to check that out.
I'm not really sure. I'm terrible with names also. But if you go to AngularFirebase.com, he has awesome content, a lot of cool videos. If you want to learn about anything, OAuth, even Puppet, and everything, the guy is really good. So this is a really good pick. Consider to be a pro member of Angular Firebase. Is really good. The second one is a book that I'm reading. It's kind of crazy, but it's called Psycho Cybertronics.
Psycho Cybertronics?
Yes.
That's a mouthful.
It's a really cool book, how to rewire your brain and achieve your goals. So use some visualization techniques to kind of feel that you already achieve your goals, and then it's easier to get there. So it's really interesting. It's a different catch and how to face life and goals.
That's awesome. So do you have a goal for 2019?
Yes.
Speaking of AngularConnect.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, why not?
What is that? Is that really your goal, or see? I just put that. I just like implanted that.
You're waiting. I'm
Actually, to come to this conference, I had to sell this to my boss.
Nice.
And one of the things since I joined the company is like I really want to be an evangelist in Angular because I love this and I want to start participating more in the community. And I didn't imagine that would be so fast.
Right.
Suddenly I'm in YouTube.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
So, and it's great that you uncovered the expenses because
Yes.
and to find employers that will actually do that and invest in their own developers training is amazing. And what company do you work for again?
I work for Reactor.
What's your
React.
boss's
You
name?
work for React.
It's Reactor. No, it's
You came to the wrong place.
it's Reactor. It's a former React Analytics. So I need to give a shout out for them. They are an amazing company. It's not really well known. It's a startup in Brussels. They have amazing workplace and they really push their developers to be more in the technology scene.
That's so great. And are they hiring?
Yeah, they are hiring. I can give you the link. There is a lot of openings. It's an amazing place. They do a lot of team buildings. Everybody there is super happy to work. So,
And what's the name of the company again?
Reactor. Yes.
Like with OR.
No. It's like this. Ria KTR.
Hold on, what? RIAKTER.
Yes.
KTR, not TER.
Exactly.
And what's your boss's name?
Thomas.
Thomas?
Thomas.
Everybody say hi, Thomas. Yeah.
Hey, Justin.
No, he's an awesome boss. So he really pushed me forward to this wish that I have to be more engaged in the community. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
That's so. I've had jobs that I really didn't like, and I've had other jobs where I'm really excited to go to work, and I'm just excited to be a part of a team that's like, it's so great to be on a team like that.
Yeah, for me it was a really big decision because I left Brazil to live in Brussels away from everybody. It was the best decision of my life. This company is amazing. My boss is amazing. All my colleagues, and now I'm here.
That's so great. Yes, because sometimes when you're trying to do something and it's like terrifying but kind of exciting, that's what I was telling them yesterday. You got to lean into that. You got to, you got to do it. And then when you do, it almost always, because I've been in that situation, and I lean in and I just go ahead and just do it, like going up on stage, and I'm terrified. But it's always been a really good experience.
So check .com careers. We have a lot of openings there. Awesome. And Brussels is not that bad, huh? It's the best place to be if you like traveling and being part of the world.
Nice. And today, check out Olivier at the end. He's our anchor. And Punahele and Uri are going to be right before lunch, and we've got a lot of other great talks. And then next year,
September, back in London.
And you can see everything on YouTube, which is amazing. But it's not the same, and if you can get here, because if you're here and you can actually immerse yourself, and that too. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, Justin. Thank you so much for staying up and doing this in the middle of the night for us. You're awesome, and thank you guys for coming and being on the show and agreeing to be on YouTube. It was really fun. Okay.
And thank you, Shai.
For knowing.
He's gonna walk in the door and he'll be like, Shy, you're late, man. Sorry, the show must go on.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for everybody jumping into this room and taking the time this morning in your early morning to do our episode. So it was cool. All right, that's a wrap.
Come to visit us in